First time in a long time, but back like I never left. Taking each day as it comes, you know me, I don't read ahead. Watch me burn down everything, BDE on the TV set. When I'm in control on the road, you can never really know what's up next.
Hello. Davie Portman here for Up Next. We are live on youtube.com/post wrestling. And I apologize for all the noise and commotion outside. My AC decided to die on the hottest day of the year so far. So I do have my windows open and fans running right now. So apologies for all the craziness you can hear outside in the streets of Toronto on this Canada Day Eve. But I am not here this week with Braden Harrington, who is enjoying pre-Canada Day celebrations at the Jays game. I am here with Mr. Eric Marcotte. Eric, how are you doing today?
I am always happy to be joining you here on Up Next. How are you doing today? I mean, no air conditioning on the hottest day of the year. That sounds pretty horrible.
It's been pretty gross, and I might have had a little accident in the kitchen last night as well with some burning. So on top of it being swelteringly hot, it stinks in here. It absolutely stinks. So I've got currently baking soda like all over the place to try and soak up some of these odors that are going on. So I'm just swell, Eric. How are you?
Well, that's the single most depressing thing I've ever heard. I'm feeling worse just for hearing it, but you know what? I'm happy. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you, Eric. How are you? Happy almost Canada Day. Any plans tomorrow? Will you be working? Are you celebrating? Anything you've got going on?
To be determined. It is supposed to thunderstorm tomorrow, so that will perhaps be a difference maker on whether I go out or not. But regardless, I have the day off, so I'm going to appreciate that.
Very nice. And what have you been up to? Have you been enjoying the World Cup this year? Have you been catching any of that at all?
The World Cup has been just keeping me going for these last couple of weeks. I've tried to watch everything. I just finished a stretch of like 4 straight nights where I was working until 10:30 p.m. So I kind of missed a bit there, but I've been having a ton of fun. Yourself?
Oh, I've been loving it. Like I was dubious about the expanded format this year, but I loved it. Like just so much football going on. I reckon I've seen about 80% of the games. Working in a bar, I've got a lot of the games on there. It's just been exhausting because I'm either working the games or I'm watching the game. So, but it's been a whole lot of fun. Crazy upset yesterday with Germany. That was nuts. And I know Mexico, Ecuador have just kicked off, so going to keep an eye on that. But I will be celebrating Canada Day by supporting England. Hopefully get through to the round of 16. But currently, Canada have done better than Germany in the World Cup, which is just incredible.
That's a fact, and we're up against Morocco next, which is extremely tough. And if we somehow pull it off, we'll probably be up against France, which is the absolute end. No delusion there, but I think as a Canadian, you just have to be happy to not only advance to the knockouts for the first time, but to make it to the round of 16 too. Really impressive for a country that didn't really have much going on in terms of soccer 15 years ago.
Absolutely. Have you got a team outside of Canada you've got your eye on, you're rooting for at all?
Outside of Canada, I'm pretty level with it. I mean, it's more hate watching all of the favorites because it's so fun to watch the upsets, like seeing Germany go out the other night. It's nothing against Germany. It's nothing against the people of Germany, but to see them lose in penalties was amazing. It was exhilarating.
Absolutely. There were some angry people at the bar yesterday, and there were a lot of Germans in there yesterday. And I just finished my shift and was watching the end of the game and sat next to someone else, and we're quietly like rooting against Germany at the end there. But yeah, it's been a whole lot of fun. But we're not going to spend too much time going on about stuff at the beginning. I will get some plugs out the way first, but as I said, it's been an exhausting few weeks, and thank you everyone for keeping up with our scheduling. I know we released an upNXT yesterday covering the Great American Bash, which you can find on this very feed. And yeah, just the Summer World Cup, craziness, Canada Day, all that, where a little bit of shifting around of hosts these few weeks, but thank you for bearing with us. So yes, please do check out our review of the Great American Bash that Braden and I put out yesterday, but also our thoughts on Forbidden Door. If you're not familiar with who I am and my usual co-host is, we are Poisonrana. We run our own little network, a little sister network outside of Post Wrestling, where we talk about all things wrestling. And yesterday did our Forbidden Door and Night of Champions review. So you can check that out just by searching for Poisonrana wherever you get your podcasts, or youtube.com/@PoisonranaPod. And on top of that, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/PoisonRana, where we've had a whole lot of shows we've been putting out recently, just like our recent review of the Great American Bash 1996. Eric, have you ever seen this show before?
I try to stay as far away from 96 WCW as possible, to be honest, so I have not. Maybe it's time to change that?
I mean, it's a horrendous show. It's an absolute horrendous show, but yes, but they always tend to make the funnier reviews. So please, yeah, check that out on the Patreon. We recently did our King of the Ring 1996 review, 30 years since Austin 316 promo happened, as well as with the final Jackass film just being released. We went back to watch the first one from 2002, which is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And have we grown up since 2002? You'll have to listen to find out. But on top of that, we have a show called Up Yours, where we go to our world champion patrons for whatever they want us to talk about. And this week, we're going to be joined by Andrew McDonald to talk about the January 29th, 2009 edition of TNA Impact. Now, Eric, if you had to pick between watching 1996 WCW or 2009 TNA, what would you pick?
Oh, listen, I will jump in for 2009 TNA at any time. It's 2010. You got to be careful, okay? Once we hit 2010, things get real bad. I think you might be safe in 2009. I'm not promising that.
We're talking all about the main event Mafia taking over the show. This is available to watch on YouTube on TNA's channel. Yes, horrible, horrible show. And I'm very much looking forward to find out why Andrew picked it. But once again, always makes for a funny talk and very timely with Dark Side of the Ring about to drop, with 3 parts covering TNA Pro Wrestling. So all of that is available on the Patreon. Just go to Poisonrana.ca for more details. That's the links to all our podcasts, Patreons, YouTube, etc., as well as any future watch parties we are going to be doing. And we do have something up our sleeves for the 2-night SummerSlam event. And Eric, we now know some of the matches about to take place at SummerSlam this year. I know you're not a big WWE guy. Have you been watching any of the product at all?
Not at all. Since WrestleMania, my wrestling consumption has dropped to pretty much zero, honestly. And I hate to say that before a wrestling podcast, but it's just I started off strong this year. Okay, I was watching like all sorts of promotions. I was consuming wrestling every day, and I burnt out too fast this year. Okay, I hit April, and I was like, man, after I watched like 40 hours of wrestling in the last 2 weeks, it was too much, and I burnt myself out. Okay, this is me dipping my toes back into the water tonight.
Okay, this is just a little pre-training for the G1, right? I assume you're going to be on board for that this year.
I am. I'm back. We're doing it.
So, well, let's see if any of these matches interest you at all. We are going to be having Liv Morgan versus Io Sky for the Women's World Championship, as was confirmed at Night of Champions. But Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar one more time. Oba has decided to put off cashing in his King of the Ring at SummerSlam this year. And he said titles will be around forever, but Brock Lesnar won't. And it is going to be a Hell in a Cell match. The first Hell in a Cell since the Drew Punk one a few years ago. So thoughts on this? Does this capture your interest at all? Obafemi, Brock Lesnar, Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I think Obafemi is fantastic, and his push has been great as well. You can tell the audience is really behind him. He's always a lot of fun, and this is one of the few. I was a bit, I wasn't sure about when they brought Lesnar back after the initial kind of squash match at Mania, if it was a good direction or not. But I think building to this big Hell in a Cell match at SummerSlam it's going to do very well for him. Obviously, like I don't know if Brock has his foot out the door at this point. It could be his last match. I don't think that'd really surprise people, but generally his track record in Hell in a Cell matches has been pretty good over the years.
Yeah, they've also really drumming home the fact that Brock has never lost a Hell in a Cell match. So I'm pretty sure we can see Obafemi winning this one, but I expect some pretty crazy stuff in this one. Probably some door ripping off and stuff like that. And then on top of that, we had Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. Seth kind of goading him by being, hey, you've beaten everyone. You beat everyone during that reign, but you didn't beat me. And this might be the last chance we get to do this match. So a lot of Shield lore. This has been rumored for a while. How they were going to go about it, we weren't quite sure, but it was just Seth came out and issued the challenge. Any interest for this one, Eric?
I think this is always a match that they can pull out, and it's always going to work. You've built up a lot of history with these two guys over the years. They're two of your top stars, and I don't think they've ever went to the well that often on this particular matchup, especially in a one-on-one setting. So I think it's a very solid main event, honestly.
Yeah, I think their last one-on-one was Royal Rumble in like 2020, was it? Something like that. And so it's been quite a while since the one-on-one match, and I believe that was a DQ finish there. So kind of the belt that Seth made, and Roman obviously having that championship. Now, super chats are open, guys. We did have to rush through our Poison Rana episode yesterday, and I would like to get to Jake from the Windy City, who did leave a super chat for us yesterday. So thank you, Jake. Saying, congrats to Canada. How about your gaffer, Jesse Marsh? Feels like you can run through a wall for him. As fireworks are now going off outside.
Perfect timing,
Jesus,
honestly.
like, fireworks I think someone's launching them from a car by the looks of it right now.
They're celebrating Jesse Marsh.
Absolutely. He's been doing great for us. Like, Canada have been, apart from the game the other day, which was probably the worst game of the whole tournament so far. But yeah, it's been great seeing Canada do well. And I think, we're not necessarily a football nation here, but people are growing into it. And it's great to see, as you said, kind of every round Canada gets through is exciting now at this point. So thank you, Jake, for that. But I think we shouldn't waste any more time because it feels like the world is blowing up outside. So let's get into a bit of NXT. We are talking WWE NXT from Tuesday, 30th of June, 2026. Eric, when was the last time you watched an episode of NXT?
Honestly, and I may be wrong on this, this may be the first full episode of NXT I've watched in 8 years. So it was
8 years.
It was a bit tough for me to keep up with everything that was happening, but I tried really hard.
They throw a lot at you on this show. It moves very quickly, and there's a lot of people on it. And sometimes, just like at the end here, they don't even tell you who's on this show. So I appreciate you for stepping in, and let's try and have some fun with this. We open things up with Kendal Gray, who asks Ren Sinclair if she will come out with her for her championship celebration And Ren says, no, it's your moment. Kendal winning the NXT Women's Championship at the Great American Bash. Have you been able to catch any of Kendal Gray?
This was my first exposure to Kendal Gray. I was disappointed that she didn't wrestle on the show, but obviously right after the big win, it makes sense that she would be in more of a just celebratory capacity on this particular show.
Booker T is back, and Vic asks why he hasn't been answering his calls, and Booker just says, I've been busy. I was busy. Kendal comes out to "You Deserve It" chants, and she says, can I be honest for a second? I am more nervous coming out here and talking to you guys than I was main eventing on Sunday. She says, I've always been a nervous person. I used to hide under my desk at school whenever my teacher asked me a question. But ever since John Cena picked me to enter the Iron Survivor, life has been crazy. And I've been hearing all the conversations about me and the expectations of me. And it puts a lot of pressure on me. But no one puts more pressure on me than myself. And she says she wasn't ever used to losing growing up. She killed it in track and field and amateur wrestling. And in Evolve, she ran through the division. So when she came to NXT, she kept getting close to the title, but would lose. And that dealt her some self-doubt and the voices in her head. And she asked if she could hang with the women's division. Well, this Sunday, I got my answer. This title proves it. You're damn right I am. And I may not look like your normal champion. I sat opposite Lola Vice last week in the contract signing, and I'm seeing her in a designer dress, her heels, she's all glammed up, and I thought that's what a champion looks like. But that's not me. That's not my style. I can't sit 5 minutes in the makeup chair without going crazy. And half the time, I wipe off half the makeup they put on me just before I come out here. And I'm not going to dress like a Barbie. And I'm nervous as hell whenever I talk. But when the bell rings, I'll wrestle like a champion. And I'm going to take this championship to new heights. And I thrive under pressure. I thrive in competition. I have a target on my back, but it's now my pace. And everyone will find out that they can't keep up with Kendal. What did you make of Kendal's first championship winning promo here?
I thought it was a really good babyface promo, to be honest. It brought me back to, I think it was Batista when he came back with Evolution one of those times. And he says, like, before he was going out, he felt really nervous. And he talked to somebody, and he's like, hey, I'm feeling really nervous right now before I go out there. And the person just tells him, okay, go ahead and tell everyone that you're nervous. Because it's something that immediately the crowd can relate with. And I think that's exactly what Kendal Gray did here. I thought it was a good promo. She came off as very likable, but not meek, right? She felt like a champion, even as she was listing off a lot of her insecurities and things that she's not comfortable with. So I thought it was a really strong start to the show, for me at least.
Yeah, she's not done much talking in the ring. She's had a lot of like backstage segments with Ren, and like her. It's a shame you didn't get to see her wrestle because her wrestling is fantastic. But I feel sometimes NXT doesn't always allow people to develop fully and doesn't necessarily allow like the good wrestlers to improve on the mic and stuff like that. They clearly see a lot in Kendal because they like the partnership with Ren definitely brings out a lot of her personality. And I think this was exactly the right thing. Sort of bring up her insecurities, bring up how nervous she is. And I think it worked. And even putting her on commentary later, like this is what they need to test her on now to get her main roster ready is the other stuff. So Ren Sinclair then comes out with a cake, and Ren says, you deserve it. You had a vision and it came true. And the 2-layer cake represents the 2 champions of the Ren QCC. But before they can enjoy their cake, Kelani Jordan comes out and says, you're celebrating after finally winning, after you got opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. So give me a match. Give me a title match. After everything I've done, I didn't even get a single match at the Bash. And I got assaulted by a lunatic. And as she's going off about Tatum Paxley, Tatum has emerged from the crowd and leaps off the barricade to attack Kelani Jordan as we cut to Kendal and Ren eating the whole cake with their hands and getting it all over their face.
Yeah, that is what happened. It was just a lot of character building stuff that obviously is going to come back in the future when we're talking about Kendall Gray and Ren Sinclair, and you set up your main event at the same time. So, it's a proper start to a wrestling show.
Yeah, they have been like kind of pushing this cake thing with Kendall as well, where it a few weeks ago she was like backstage just eating a whole cake just like she was here. She goes, "What? I don't have a match tonight. I can eat my cake." We then cut backstage where we see El Hijo del Vikingo has been taken out and Robert Stone is yelling for medical as we learn that it is Keanu Carver has taken out Vikingo here. I was so disappointed. I thought we were going to get an EK Prosper Vikingo match, which sounds awesome, and they pulled it away from us.
I was so unhappy when I saw the match layout at the start of the show. I saw Vikingo and I go, I know Vikingo. Vikingo's great. Awesome. And not 30 seconds later, he is dead backstage and he will not be on that show. So very disappointing.
I'm hoping we get the match with him and Prosper at some point. Maybe they're putting it off till the Heatwave AAA double bill thing we're having on All In Day. We then see Izzy Dame, who's backstage, and she's upset with Ren and Kendall being the champions. And she said, both of them as champions, I should be Izzy 3 belts, as Zarya walks in, the women's North American champion. And Izzy says, I want that title too. And Zarya reminds her that Izzy lost to Tatum and Zarya has beaten Tatum twice. So, yeah, a little weird, maybe setting up a bit of a heel versus heel North American title match down the line. And as they're doing this, there's some noise coming from the women's locker room. They're like, what is that racket? And they open the door, and Lizzie Rain is rocking out to some heavy metal and says, they're like, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm making it rain, baby. Is this your first time seeing Lizzie Rain?
I knew of Lizzie Rain's existence. This was my first exposure to Lizzie Rain.
Yeah. A bit of a silly segment here. And obviously this will kind of lead into the Fatal 4-Way that gets announced later on the show. Kelani then approaches Robert Stone and asks if he saw what happened out there with her getting attacked. He's like, no, I was too busy with Keanu Carver. And he's like, but you know what? If you and Tatum are at each other's throats so much, you can main event the show tonight, as I didn't have a main event. And as Vikingo's out, I'm now going to make it Keanu Carver versus EK Prosper later in the show, which is a rematch from a few weeks ago. We go to our first match of the evening, the Vanity Project of Ricky Smokes, maybe the best name in wrestling, and Brad Baylor, your tag team champions, taking on the AAA team of the brothers, El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. and Geleno. We get a big leapfrog and shoulder block from Geleno early on, who's the bigger of the two. Booker T really trying his best to decipher who is who in this match. Wagner then comes in and takes out Smokes and Baylor with a series of kicks and hits a tope con hilo, taking both out on the floor. Geleno keeps running the ropes and delivers a big splash to Baylor, but Smokes breaks up the pin. We then get a big knee from Geleno, and then Dr. Wagner charges at Geleno and gets popped up into a drop kick to Ricky Smokes. But Baylor breaks up the pin by putting Smokes' foot on the ropes. And then Baylor's pulling this dorky face. He's like, who, me? What? No. Baylor then lifts Wagner up and Smokes hits a very high drop kick for a 2 count. We then get an inverted vertical suplex from Wagner. And then Wagner stands on top of Geleno's shoulders and comes down with a big splash. It then gets a little awkward here. I wasn't sure if it was maybe a little bit of an injury or just positioning was off, because they kind of, all 4 of them stall here after this big splash, as we realize they've got to position themselves with Baylor charging to break up the pin and getting backdropped on top of the pin. It then cuts to Geleno, who's kind of holding his ribs, and commentary are questioning if maybe he injured himself from the splash. Drake then gets on the apron, but gets knocked off. But this allows Smokes to follow up with a kick to the head and the neck breaker double stomp combo to Dr. Wagner Jr. for the win, the Vanity Project retaining.
Wagner Jr. is someone who I'm very familiar with. Very strong wrestler from his Noah run. I haven't caught pretty much anything he's done since going to AAA, unfortunately, but I was always a fan of his. And his brother he's still very young, but he is capable of some ridiculous things for a man of his size. He didn't really show that off in this match, unfortunately, but I think if you're not familiar with him, he's somebody to actually keep your eye on going forward, because he's very young still. I think he's only 24, but he has a lot of potential in my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was slightly underwhelmed with this one. I think they showed the match graphic last week, I'm like, oh, that sounds great. But there was just some awkwardness. I don't know if it's, maybe a language barrier or, things in, don't they sort of feed the other way in Mexico than US? There are some like differences in wrestling style. And it just felt a couple of times in this, they all looked a little lost, which was disappointing because I'm very high up on the Vanity Project. I think they're excellent. And I haven't seen Geleno before, as far as I'm aware, but I've been impressed with Dr. Wagner Jr. El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr.
Dr. Wagner Jr. Jr.
Exactly. So, yeah, I just thought this one, maybe they weren't quite on the right page with each other, but it was a little disappointing. We then go backstage to Birthright and OTM, who are with Mr. Stone, and they're bringing up that Vanity Project has had the title for 4 months, but only defended it 3 times. Sean Legacy comes in and he says, I want a title shot as well. And they're like, well, where's your partner? And he's looking around for Dorian Van Dukes and he's not there with him. Cutler and Osiris from Dark State come in and say that they want a shot. And then Noam Dar with Romeo Moreno show up as well. And Stone says, you know what? You're right. These tag titles should be defended more frequently. So next week, I'm going to make a 4-way match where the winners will face Vanity Project for the titles. And he says it will be OTM versus Birthright versus Dark State versus, and this is the bit that gets me, Sean Legacy, you and your not partner, I'm going to put you in the match instead of Noam Dar and Romeo Moreno, who has stood right behind me. So a 4-way there. And Romeo's looking upset. He's like, what about us? And Noam says, no, you know what? We've got to rack up the wins first. So let's go out there and start having some wins so we can go towards the tag titles. I was saying on, I think it was Great American Bash or last week's Up Next, that they should really just bring back the Dusty Classic. It's been a long time now, and you've got all these teams. I feel this would be a good time to do it. Maybe too many tournaments going on right now, but I would like to see that. But it's good they're trying to build this tag team division up a little bit because it has felt very flat recently. We go to our next match, and it's Mason Rook taking on Jackson Drake. Is Rook someone you're familiar with from Noah?
I am mostly familiar with him from the online discourse after his first NXT appearance. Now, I've seen him before, but that was when he first made an impression on me, and I haven't watched anything since then. So this was my first, actual seeing him work in NXT. And before we even get into it, I mean, I feel like I'm just going over things that you've already said in the past, but something that works heavily in his favor is he looks so different from everybody else that you see on the show. He leaves an impression where a lot of these people just kind of, as someone who hasn't watched NXT in a very long time, a lot of these people I will not remember tomorrow. Mason Rook is someone who I will remember just because he's so different from everybody, and it works to his advantage, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. I feel they've dropped the ball slightly with him since his debut because he had such a hot debut, and they've, kind of made him a bit more ordinary since then. He's had, segments backstage with Lizzie Rain where I feel he should be a bit more of this killer. But this was a match I was looking forward to because Jackson Drake is someone who's been really impressing me. And so, yeah, nice little matchup here between these two. Drake lands a kick and backs into the ropes to separate himself from Rook. He's kind of doing the stick and move thing with the bigger guy. Rook eventually catches him with a power slam and a big sounding chop to the chest. And then Booker T's phone starts to ring during this match. And it is the Cam Hendricks. And somehow Booker has managed to fit his phone up with the production truck here as we see everything Cam is saying. And he says that he's 61.5% cleared and he's going to come back and deliver that lights camera action. It was Cam who cost Mason Rook his match against Naraku. So they've been having a little feud, and obviously the phone going off here was to try and distract Rook a little bit more. We go back to the ring, and there's some short arm clotheslines from Rook, followed by a senton for a 2, and then a huge spine buster. Jackson Drake comes back with a lethal injection for a 2, and then there's another series of stiff sounding chops from Rook, and then this like modified blue thunder bomb where he got so many rotations before just launching Drake here. It looked awesome. He didn't quite do the sit out with it, more of like a kind of toss blue thunder bomb. Followed up with a cannonball in the corner, only a 2 count. Drake then goes for a sunset flip, but can't get the big man down. So Rook goes to like Rikishi style sit down on Drake, but Drake uses his speed to get out the way and then hits a lion salt into a double stomp to the chest. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do this before. This was crazy impressive.
Super cool, honestly. One of the spots of the match that really stick with you coming out of it.
Yeah, like Braden and I have been going off about how Drake is just quite innovative with a lot of his stuff, and this was awesome, and like commentary were losing their mind over this. There's then a poison rana from Drake, but Rook pops right back up, follows up with a big clothesline, a sit-out power bomb, but Drake kicks out. And this is when Micah Lockwood gets onto the apron to distract the ref as Ricky Smokes gets in the ring, but gets picked up by Rook and dumped on top of Baylor on the outside. But the distraction allows Jackson Drake to follow up with a backstabber. He goes for the pin, and Lockwood is crouching down, holding onto the leg of Rook so he can't kick out. And Jackson Drake with a bit of a upset win over Mason Rook here. So Rook is upset and immediately takes out the whole of Vanity Project and gets Smokes on his back as he hits the cannonball on Baylor in the corner. But what did you make of this match, Eric?
I thought this was comfortably the best match on the show. I think they really did some innovative, cool stuff throughout, and they had the crowd in the palm of their hands by the end of it. Like they really got into. It can be tough to sell a guy the size of Rook as a strong babyface when he's against a smaller opponent, but I thought they really made it work here. It was the highlight of the show for me, at least.
Absolutely. This one didn't disappoint. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Both guys are ones to look out for. I think like Vanity Project are just so impressive. Like Jackson Drake is so smooth already in the ring, and he's at such a young age. And on top of that, they've got bundles of personality. I do think this is an act that could move up altogether at some point. And I capitalize on them while they're young and having them as this young, kind of annoying Gen Z group on the main roster. But yeah, I agree with you. This was absolutely match of the night. We then go backstage to Tate Wilder. Sorry, Eric. Just there's so many people on this show. Tate Wilder, the Daredevil, who's talking to EK Prosper. And EK says, I was preparing for Vikingo tonight, not Keanu Carver. They're both quite different in styles. And Tate tells him, well, no one can move like you, and you've already beaten Carver once, so you can beat him again. And we then cut to Callie Armstrong, who, if I'm correct, she was the previous Evolve champion and just dropped it to Nikita Lyons. Callie's saying that she wants her opportunity, and she says to Stone that she got next. And Stone goes, look, I don't just hand out title opportunities, but let me tell you something. Actions speak louder than words. So setting up something that will happen later on in the show. But Callie Armstrong's someone who's impressed so far on NXT, and I thought she sounded all right here in this backstage segment as well. We go to our next match. It is EK Prosper taking on Keanu Carver once again, and Carver is just dominating. He delivers this huge release German suplex that just turns EK inside out. Prosper manages to come back with a few super kicks, but runs into a huge clothesline, followed by a Beal, which got so much hype on this. Like, Prosper's selling here was great. He was just bouncing around for Carver. Carver goes for a power slam, but Prosper counters this into a stunner and starts to get the better of him. He hits a moonsault to a standing Carver, and then a top rope guillotine leg drop, almost like a Rough Rider, essentially, to Carver, followed by a big spin kick, which sends Carver to the outside. Prosper goes for his suicide dive, but eats a huge forearm, and then Carver is getting back into it. He launches Prosper onto the announce table when Tank Ledger runs out to avenge his partner's death at the Great American Bash as Carver put him through the table. And this time Tank puts Carver through the LED board, but the referee missed it. Carver's down. The ref starts counting. Carver's staggering to his feet, gets to the ring on 9, but gets met with a Shining Wizard from Prosper, followed by a huge moonsault. And once again, EK Prosper picks up a win over Keanu Carver. I imagine, Eric, first time you've seen both these guys, what were your impressions?
This was probably my second favorite match of the night. They outlined it very well. Obviously, you just have your monster heel putting the beat down on Prosper to start the match, throwing him around, and eventually, of course, he builds himself back up, gets the crowd, and in the end gets the win. So it's as straightforward as a wrestling match gets on paper. But I thought these guys delivered it very well. They both impressed me. There were some spots where it was a bit clunky towards the beginning, I thought, but as they moved a bit forward towards the later portions of the match, I thought they nailed it. It was a good match.
Yeah, Carver is still incredibly green, but there's sometimes something quite exciting about watching green big men
100%, yes,
throwing people around. You generally get scared. Like some of those clotheslines and things, you're like, ooh, that looks rough. But it is very entertaining, and I thought Prosper was bouncing around great for him. He's another one. Like, there's a lot of guys, in this day and age who do flips and stuff, but the way he moves, like that moonsault, the little tuck he does on his moonsault and stuff like that, makes him stand out quite a bit. And I really hope we do get that Vikingo match down the line, because those two will match up really nicely. We then see Kendal Gray backstage, who tells Stone to just give Callie a title match, and Stone says no, she has to earn it. And so he's setting up a lot of ways for people to earn their title matches, as he sets up a 4-way between Lizzie Rain, Layla Diggs, Thea Hale, and Izzy Dame. Jesus, we got a Lizzie Rain and a Izzy Dame on the same show in the same match. But that'll be a 4-way for the number 1 contenders of the North American title next week. And we see Natty, the low-key legend, with her new group of Carmen Petrovic, Nikita Lyons, and Layla Diggs. They walk in, and Natty says, yes, you have to earn your shots around here. Just like Layla earned her way into the 4-way and will earn a North American title match. Just like Carmen will earn her win against Jaida later tonight. And Nikita earned the Evolve title. And she says she's done everything in wrestling, and therefore she has earned an NXT women's title match. So Stone is like, yeah, you're right, and sets up a match between Natty and Kendal Gray in her first defense next week. Eric, I know usually you kind of echo my opinions on Natalya, but how are you enjoying this sort of new, like, heelish character that Natty's been doing?
Well, I'm not enjoying it. I'm not a fan of Natalia as a wrestler, unfortunately. And with that being said, I do see the logic in sticking one of your most experienced wrestlers in there with this young person that you were pushing to the top. I do think that makes sense. And she has her audience, of course, as a character, but that's not something that intrigues me at all.
Yeah, I think she's growing into the role a little better now. Like I thought here, like her arrogance was coming through, and this little group she's got like are quite unlikable. Like Nikita Lyons is very unlikable, but it is a little weird if you're going back with the NXT stories. It was Nikita just a year ago who was trying to break up Carmen and Ashanti. And now they're besties on the same team.
These things move fast in professional wrestling, Davey. I think you have to just accept that, okay? They could be at each other's throats again next week and then friends again the week after. Think of the Big Show, okay?
Think of the Big Show, absolutely. But yeah, I see Jaida probably getting involved next week to cost Natty this match as that feud continues. And talking of Jaida, she's up next, taking on Carmen Petrovic with Natty, Layla, and Nikita ringside. Carmen runs into a backbreaker from Jaida, who then follows up with her teardrop and the high step. Carmen gets back into it and starts mocking Jada's pose before hitting Eat Defeat. And then Jaida applies a Rings of Saturn, but she's too close to the ropes as Carmen breaks the hold. Carmen is then talking to the ref as this distracts the refs, allowing Nikita to pull Jaida off the apron, holds her back, and Natty delivers these punches to the stomach. But Jaida just kind of goes like, oh, well, rolls back into the ring, hits a couple of short arm clotheslines, Hypnotic, and Deja Vu, the Sky High, for the win. This was fine. We haven't seen Carmen wrestle for a long time. I don't think this really showcased her much at all. This didn't really showcase Jaida much either, and I found the interference a little strange considering it just led to nothing and Jaida won, but I wasn't particularly high on this one.
No, neither was I. I don't think it left much of an impression. The finish was stupid. I don't understand what was going through their minds when they penciled that in as the way to end the match. To do the big interference spot and for it to have no effect at all works if you're doing it in the sense that she's just, I'm so tough, I'm not going to take it, and like hits Natalia and rolls back in. But that's not what happened. It was just a bit awkward, I found.
Yeah, she didn't even really fight them off or anything. She just ate these gut shots and won the match. We then cut backstage to Shiloh Hill. Is Shiloh Hill anyone that you've been made aware of?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so this is the he has a bit of like a following before his time in WWE, as he does like TikTok videos about him exploring the dark web, and like he's got a video of he bought some like cowboy boots with like real blood on them and stuff like that. So he's a little wacky, a little weird. And him and Tatum have been hanging out quite a lot as he's playing with Tatum Paxley's hair. And Tatum says, "Oh, Shiloh, at Great American Bash, I saw a side of you I haven't seen before." And Shiloh goes, "Yeah, you know, guys like Tristan Angels, they can bring that out of me." And Tatum goes, "You know, we're more alike than we think because we both know when to tap into the darkness." He wishes her luck in her match against Kelani, and she says she doesn't need it, but Kelani will. So Tatum goes off to prepare when Nico Vance walks in after just booting Sean Spears. There you go, you know him, out of the culling last week. And Nico says the culling is better without Tatum, and certainly better without Spears. And it's time to pick off these weak superstars one by one. And Shiloh just goes, "Yeah, that's cool, but don't talk about Tatum like that." And it is confirmed that these two will be having a match next week. And we haven't really seen Nico in singles action before. So he is someone who's starting to be like, look impressive in ring. So we'll be interested to see what that's about. But any impressions made by Shiloh Hill or Nico Vance here?
I mean, obviously Shiloh Hill was kind of going for weird, and that's the impression that was left. So in that sense, he succeeded. I don't know if it really captured me in the same way that, I don't know, some of the wilder characters this company's put out over the years has, but this is just like a 2-minute glimpse into a character I was previously unfamiliar with. So I'm not gonna kill him here.
We see Dorian Van Dukes backstage in the locker room when Sean Legacy comes in and says, "Yo, where the fuck were you? I went to get us a title shot and I turn around and you're not there." It's embarrassing. If we're going to be a tag team, we've got to make sure we're on the same page. And tells Dorian, we have a match next week, a number 1 contenders for the tag titles. And they do their little secret handshake. But these two are people to watch out for. Like, I think this tag team should be pretty fun. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to that 4-way. But I hope these two win, because I think these two against the Vanity Project could be a lot of fun down the line. We then go to Ren Sinclair and Miles Bourne, former NQCC teammates, and they're congratulating each other on their title defenses at the Great American Bash when Tavion Heights walks in, and Ren is kind of like, "Oh, it's Tavion," gets a little awkward and leaves. And Miles says, "Look, Tavion, we had a hell of a match at the weekend." And Tavion's like, "Yeah, but did you just see what Tank did for his partner? Like, that's a brotherhood. That's real ride or die stuff there. And it doesn't matter what happens when you're in the ring. You stick together with your boys." And Bourne goes, "Yeah, that's what I've been telling you the whole time," and walks off. And Tavion's there like, you got the sense that Tavion was trying to apologize, but doesn't quite know how to quite yet.
Can they coexist?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Tavion Heights. He's really struggling to connect. Both Braden and I really didn't like their match at the weekend. And I think it would be much better for them to just be a tag team again. I know Miles is on his singles run right now, but almost feels a little bit what Chad Gable's doing on Raw, where he's trying to win back the trust of his former teammates. We then go to Tony D'Angelo, the NXT champion, who comes out with his eye still patched up. I don't know if you caught this angle. I know Braden was sharing the picture a lot of Tony with his eye patch, but your favorite, Evil, Naraku, went to do a contract signing, but loaded the contract with dynamite and exploded the contract in his face. So it's a shame. You get a bit of Evil here, but I was hoping we'd get a bit more Naraku for you to talk about on this show.
An exploding contract is objectively hilarious. Okay, that is absolutely brilliant. How did that not happen in 2000 WCW? I love it.
I think the last time they did this was Karrion Kross with Keith Lee way back when, but I always get a kick out of the fireball angle. It's ridiculous, but it's always quite funny. Tony comes out and he talks about taking things for granted. He's like, dinner with your family, sending texts to your buddies, doom scrolling, social media. These are all things we take for granted. And last week, I was in an ambulance wondering if I would ever see out of this eye again. And I had to sign waivers to make sure I wrestle and didn't forfeit my title. I had to ask myself if I'm willing to risk my health to defend this championship. And I sat there and said to myself, "You're damn right I am." And I told Naraku I was showing up for war. And I speared him through the perch in the first minute of the match. And I didn't stop. And I got my hand raised. And now I'm done with you, Naraku. And my eye will make a full recovery. But here's a message to my next challenger. I'm the master of fate. And what are you willing to do to take this title from me? There's a man who is willing to swim deep waters and take this championship. There's not a man willing to swim deep waters and take this championship from Tony D. And he walks off as Kendal Gray's music hits as she's coming out for the main event. But as she's walking out, we see Tony thrown back on the stage as he's attacked with a chair. And Naraku is attacking him with Do you think he bit his eye here? Because Naraku's got blood all in his mouth as he's attacking Tony with the chair and delivers everything is evil on top of the chair and runs off laughing in his nice purple pants here as Kendal Gray is left checking on Tony D. First of all, what did you make of Tony's promo here?
It was fine. Tony D'Angelo is never somebody I've been a particular fan of. He's not someone who's resonated with me, but I also haven't seen his work in a while. Like the last time I saw Tony D'Angelo, he was not a main eventer, right? So a lot's changed. His promo style has changed incredibly, right? So it was just kind of jumping back in and seeing this new version of him at the top of the card. And I thought he was fine, but it was a bit generic for a promo, I thought, at least. Like, it didn't really leave an impression where, like, earlier in the show when Kendal Gray opened it up, that was one where it's the same concept, but it landed with me better because it made her sympathetic. It outlined her story to that point. I just thought it was the better promo of the two.
Yeah, Tony's still missing something. I do think he's leveled up. I do think in ring he's leveled up, and I think his look, like, he looks more like a champion now. But the kind of brooding character isn't quite working for me, and there is that disconnect, as you said. Like, he is your babyface champion, and I don't feel the same like rooting for him as you do with a Kendal. And what about Naraku? I know you're a big evil House of Torture fan. Have you been checking out any of his stuff on NXT? And do you think this is a good place for him to be?
I think he's fine in the WWE. He's what I will always give Evil is he is a very good wrestler. Like, he, in every sense, from an in-ring perspective, he is capable of having good matches. He's very charismatic. I think he's good at comedy, but he's just been booked in the worst possible light for 6 years straight. And if you're familiar with him, that is a really hard, like, it's hard to take your mind off of 6 years of being arguably the worst gimmick in the entire industry, right? And there have been some highlights in there. It's not like every match he's had has been bad. There's been some times where he's had the crowd in the palm of his hands. In NXT, I'm hoping that even if they rely on a bit of that House of Torture antics in his style, he's just allowed to go out there and actually wrestle a bit more because, like I said, he's good. He's very good. So I'd like to see a bit more of that after years of it just not being on the radar at all.
Yeah, I haven't minded him so far. The match at Great American Bash was very quick, and I was surprised he didn't win it. But we kind of felt that this feud would be continuing, and I imagine some kind of gimmick match where I don't know if they're going to bring in anyone to team with Naraku and kind of form a new sort of NXT House of Torture. But I think they should put the title on him the next time he challenges Tony.
Could you imagine yourself saying that just like 2 years ago? They need to put the title on Evil right now.
Because I think you're setting up Mason Rook down the line to take it from Naraku. So that's something I'd like to see. Kendal Gray now joins commentary for the main event, which Kendal says she's bringing up her match with Natty and says, "Oh, yeah, I'm super excited to face Natty. I remember watching her on Total Divas as I was growing up. I couldn't be more ready." Doesn't mention watching her wrestling or anything. Just, I watched her talk about her cats and emasculate Tyson.
That was the biggest pop on the entire show for me. That's when I knew I really liked Kendal Gray. Okay, that's my type of wrestling fan.
Absolutely. Tatum Paxley versus Kelani Jordan. Get the sense this is sort of like an unofficial number one contenders match. We get Kelani going for her Acai moonsault, but Tatum moves out the way and Kendal lands her on her feet and rolls through on the floor. Then there's a big kick to the gut from Tatum. As we're about to cut to commercial break, we hear a thud as we see Kendal Gray has been taken out. And we cut to and we see Callie Armstrong standing above her. I quite liked how they did this, where you didn't really see the attack. You're just hearing hearing it happen on commentary. I quite like the little. I don't know if it was a deliberate move or they just missed it because they obviously replayed the pounce that Callie hits later. But I quite liked how they did this. It surprised me.
I definitely took it as deliberate, given that they timed it for when they were teasing a commercial break, but didn't actually cut to commercial.
Yeah.
So I do think it was planned that way, and it was innovative. I liked it too.
We come back, and Tatum goes for her spinning heel kick, but Kelani moves out the way, and this causes Tatum to hit her ankle on the turnbuckle. And now this becomes the focus of Kelani moving forward. She keeps stomping down on the foot, on the ankle. Tatum catches Kalani's foot and starts to fire back with punches, followed by a Spanish fly. Tatum then goes up top, goes for the 450, but Kelani moves. Tatum lands on her feet and rolls through, but this tweaks her ankle even more. Kelani goes up top, goes for the high cross, but Tatum moves. And then Tatum delivers a vertical suplex with like the assist bouncing off the top rope, rolls through and goes for like a fisherman buster, but this just looked horrible. They just kind of crashed to the mat here. She then attempts a submission where she's really trying to bend Kelani completely in half and grab her fingers together. Doesn't quite lock it in, and I think following that fisherman's buster just looked kind of awkward. Kelani comes back and applies the lasso from El Paso, or Kairi Sane's anchor, if you will, to further damage the ankle of Tatum. They then start rolling through with multiple pin attempts as Kelani gets dumped to the floor. Tatum goes for Cemetery Drive, but it gets blocked, and then goes for an Enziguri, but that gets turned into a Dragon Screw. Kelani then goes for a inverted angle slam, but they both just collapse to the mat. It looked horrible. So she picks her up, hits it again, lands it better this time, and then hits the one-of-a-kind moonsault, and Kelani Jordan pins Tatum Paxley, as we see she's got a bit of a bloody mouth here as well at the end. But before we go to the post-match, what did you think of this?
I thought it was a mess, honestly. They were very ambitious, and they did do some cool things, but they were a bit overly ambitious with some of these spots, and it just didn't work. It was sloppy. Yeah, I'm sorry, it just wasn't a phenomenal match. Although I will say, like, it wasn't dull. They were trying things that just didn't work out.
Yeah, this was so disappointing because both are really good. Both are two of the better women in NXT, and normally they are quite ambitious, but they pull it off. And there was just quite a few mishaps in this match, and just it made the ending just feel dead. And there's talk that Tatum's time in NXT might be over soon. Like she has kind of done everything there is to do, and hopefully this isn't her last match on NXT, because that would have been a whimper. I was really let down with this one, and I'm sure they're kind of probably kicking themselves now with it not really working out. But after the match, a woman attacks Tatum as Kelani is just looking on from the stage, and she hits her again. And this kind of the sort of curse continued, because she goes for her torture rack and just falls down to her knees as she's trying it. Eventually gets back on her feet and delivers the torture rack to Tatum, as they're doing that NXT thing where, oh, we all know who that is. That's a new woman here. We know that. Oh, things are about to get stronger here in NXT. And like, I mean, people have been pointing out, obviously it's big time Baxter in the chat saying it's Nikki Blackheart. I'm not particularly familiar with her, but it's a weird thing they do in NXT where they haven't decided on a name yet or don't want to announce a name yet, and they just do this vague, oh, everyone knows who this is. But I felt, unfortunately, after a bit of a mess of a match, the angle was also a bit of a mess at the end. And just it kind of, the crowd didn't know who she was, and it just went out with a whimper, this show.
I thought it was a disaster, unfortunately. The knee buckling was really unfortunate. The crowd did not react. They're doing the whole talk of the industry. You know who this is, but I don't know how many NXT viewers are keeping up with CCW, right? Like, that's not a gigantic platform where everyone's going to know her. So I don't think it worked in this instance doing the whole, you know who this is. That works when you have, Ricky Saints or Naraku, and they've been in prominent positions. But I thought this was unfortunately a very poor ending for the show.
Yeah, Ricky Saints, Blake Monroe, Naraku, like your AEW New Japan. Yes, like I've never seen this girl before, and I watched quite a bit of wrestling. I was kind of. She's definitely got a bit of a different look. Like she's short and stocky and big, powerful legs. So I'm interested there. But it was just a real, like Baxter in the chat saying she missed her time cue trying to leave the ring, and then someone had to tell her to stay. And it's cutting to the crowd, and they're like shaking their heads, like, "Who is this?" And real wet fart of an end of this show, I thought. But yeah, Eric, your first NXT in 8 years. Overall thoughts will you be coming back for more NXT in the future?
When there is so much that this wrestling world is offering you right now, NXT, I think, unless you're a very loyal watcher of the product, if you're a very loyal or watcher of the WWE, it's just one of those shows that kind of gets sidetracked when you're trying to keep up on everything going on out there. I can't say this was enough to pull me back in. There were some matches I liked. There were some characters that resonated. I think that definitely Kendal Gray will have a big future in this company. But I can't say this show was strong enough to retain a viewer who is just checking in here.
Yeah, I completely appreciate that. I think the way I enjoy it is just it is this like workshop for wrestlers, right? Like it's this workshop on live TV where you're throwing different ideas out, different characters out. Like this show, especially if you're new to it must have your head spinning because there's so many segments on this show to get through and so many characters and so many ridiculous names and gimmicks and things like that. But I've always enjoyed it because of that, because like not everything's going to work, not everything's going to stick, but you do kind of, it is cool when you see a Kendal or a Vanity Project or acts like that where you go, oh, I can see this connecting. And, we're watching Obafemi now on the main roster, killing it. Trick Williams killing it. So I think whereas I think 2018, I'm watching more so for the wrestling. That's not what I watch this show. I mean, apart from doing a podcast since 2018 about NXT, that's not necessarily what I watch this show for. But certainly with there being so much out there, I can understand why it's not everyone's cup of tea. But that's NXT. Sorry, I know a little bit of a shorter show this week. As I mentioned at the top, just suffering with a few things going on right now. But Eric, what have you got going on? Anything you can plug for us?
I will be on the Post Wrestling feed in about a week's time, I believe, with John Pollock discussing the latest UFC offering. A miserable product. Don't watch it. But if you like hearing negative reviews, I think the UFC reviews showcase a lot of that. Aside from that, I will be on our Post Wrestling's illustrious lineup for this upcoming G1. So we'll jump back into New Japan and see what's going on with the new generation that they're pushing right now.
Have you got any predictions for I know we'll have the prediction contest going on, but have you got any picks, any insider tips of who you can see winning the tournament this year?
I think they desperately need to go with these young guys. We've been seeing it for years, and there's guys who they have started to push to that level. I'd say Yota Tsuji is officially, one of your top stars. He's cemented. They gave Callum Newman a shot this year, varying degrees of success depending on who you ask, but he's certainly a solid wrestler. It's time to go with Yuya Uemura in my mind. I think this guy is phenomenal, and Yuya Uemura versus Yota Tsuji is a Wrestle Kingdom headliner in my mind. So that's the direction I would go. I'm sure they'll have the worst possible results that you could. Sonata will win the G1 instead, but here's hoping.
And could you see them doing the cash in before Wrestle Kingdom like they've done the last couple of years, or do you think they should just build to January 4th?
It all depends on if they had somebody who would draw in a big crowd at the Tokyo Dome. And for example, if you had a date for Kazuchika Okada, I don't care what your plans are. You need to put Okada in the main event for business reasons. Like anything else would be so stupid that it shouldn't even be discussed. But let's go in with the perspective that they're not bringing back Okada or fucking Naito or any of their big superstars for the show. Then yeah, just go with the guys who you want as your faces of the company going forward. Like, what's there to lose? You're not going to do worse than that Zack Sabre Jr., Shota Umino main evented Wrestle Kingdom from a few years ago. I promise you.
Yeah.
Just have some faith in these guys who are resonating with the crowd, who are great wrestlers, who are fresh to the scene. New Japan's moved out of that phase they were in for too long, where they were relying on all their old acts and putting them in there over and over again. That's in the past. But that doesn't mean you're just going to grab everybody again. You have to do interesting stuff with the people you do have. And I don't think they've done that yet.
I mean, I that's what you need, right? You need that big match to draw people back in. Hearing, oh, there was this Yuya Uemura Yota Tsuji like 5-star classic in the main event. And you go, okay, maybe I'll check that out. I don't really know much about these guys. And I think that's, you do have to pull the trigger with those younger guys. I wonder if any of this Yota Tsuji, Tony Khan thing is building to something. I saw Tsuji inviting Tony Khan to come to the G1 in Chicago and maybe play a round of golf after. But maybe potentially eventually some AEW star against Tsuji down the line in a New Japan show, perhaps. We have some feedback on the Facebook group for this week's NXT. If you're not a member of the Facebook group already, why not? Just search Poison Rana wherever on Facebook and look for that neon frog, and you can leave funny posts or leave feedback, just like Jordan Goodman has on this week's show, who says, Davie, your hair's looking good. Can I get your BBC iPlayer login for Wimbledon? And also says, love you, Eric. Yes, you can, Jordan. Just DM me. I'll give you. I think all you need is my postcode, because in the UK it's a TV license. So I'll give you my postcode and you can watch Wimbledon this year. And then we go to Fire Frank. We haven't had Frank feedback for a while, who says, easy watch that flew by for me tonight while setting up a lot of matches for next week and beyond. Vanity Project had a big night. Welcome back, Booker T, who was already on one 30 seconds into his return. Kelani and Tatum has a really solid main event, followed by the TV debut of the former Nikki Blackheart. New name still loading. Anyway, question for Eric. We are now into July, and it is coming up on the 21st anniversary of Muhammad Hassan's final match at the 2005 Great American Bash. 21st anniversary, that's crazy. So he says, so since this is an NXT review, if you could pick one current NXT wrestler, man or woman, for Hassan to have a comeback match against, who would it be? P.S. Raw 5 forever.
Oh, Frank, it is good to hear you again. I love you too, Jordan. Glad to hear from both of you. And what a phenomenal question. It is not often enough that Muhammad Hassan is brought up on upNXT, and I'm glad to see Frank change that here. You know, Muhammad Hassan was a phenomenal heel for 2005. But if they tried to make that character a heel in 2026, it would be a PR disaster, okay? Muhammad Hassan has to be the babyface. Like, you can't boo the guy whose whole thing is, hey, why do you guys hate me because I look different than you? I am an American, all right? That doesn't work. He is a massive babyface in 2026, so he needs a heel to feud with, and who better than Naraku, okay? Muhammad Hassan versus Evil. This is like a dream match for me, okay? I would give them 30 minutes.
And getting those USA chants for Muhammad Hassan. How about that?
He's an American. It's his whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. Thank you, Eric, for joining me. It's been far too long since we've had a little chat. I hope to get to see you. Any plans on coming to Toronto this summer?
Yeah, I'm hoping to come down for a week in August. If I'm able to make that work, I'd love to see a bit of Toronto.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you, Eric, and let's hope we can. You still got to pick something for us for up yours as well. It's been far too long. So, any ideas?
Make that happen?
Any ideas?
I have plenty of ideas, man. You know what? I'll send you an entire list. All right, just give me a bit, and we will treat these people to some quality wrestling.
Lovely. Sounds great. Well, that's it for tonight. You can check us back on Sunday for this week's episode of Poisonrana, where we'll be talking more about the build to SummerSlam, the fallout from Forbidden Door. We're now on the road to redemption in AEW, and everything else going on in the pro wrestling. Join us at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Go England, go Canada. Happy Canada Day. Happy 4th of July. Take care. Goodbye. Be safe. Ahoy!